Bueno, estamos acá con Kailash, líder del movimiento de la Marcha Global contra el Trabajo Infantil. Queríamos preguntarle cuál era la expectativa de esta cumbre para él.
What is your expectation about the global conference?
Well, first of all, it's a good event of sharing of knowledge and experience from all parts of the world at a very big level. Secondly, it will help in revitalizing or generating more energy against child labor. Because when the people of same or similar motive or understanding gather at one place, it helps in creating strong waves. It's more psychological, but more positive to be recharged. So once the people go back from here, they will feel more recharged. So it would be a kind of psychological thing. And the third thing that it will help definitely in generating more political understanding, more South-South cooperation, and little more sense of urgency to abolish child labor. Yeah.
Some people believe that the declaration from Brasilia is very poor.
I know that declaration is. The difficulty is that we already have a roadmap, and that roadmap has to be followed to eradicate the worst forms of child labor up to 2016. Now, whatever comes out from here, for me, it is a kind of reiterate or underline or reconfirm the ongoing roadmap. I did not have much expectation in terms of paper that something come out of paper and which will change the whole world, because the roadmap is still here. The ILO conventions are very clear. You cannot create a new ILO convention out of such a conference. Conventions are much more stronger in detail and clear. And then beside conventions, there are recommendations of ILO conventions on worst forms of child labor as well as on minimum age domestic labor. So if these things are already there, and if you cannot follow them, then whatever strong or weak outcome comes, you won't follow. So the more important thing is we have paper, we have knowledge. The more important thing is that how to execute or how to exercise that knowledge in action. So we have a lot of knowledge about child labor than ever before. We have a lot of knowledge about the solutions than ever before. Solutions. One of the solutions you gave just now. Yeah, definitely. So many solutions are very innovative and they are important. Telefónica has done wonderful work in this part of the world, I know, and mobilizing new ideas, mobilizing projects and support and education, many things. So, but the question is that how many Telefónicas are there in the world? The question is that how many civil society groups, how many government, how many leaders in politics, they will follow the thing which has already been agreed in the past. There is very clear commitment that all children would receive and complete their basic education or elementary education by 2015. We fail. There is very clear commitment, what we call the Dakar Framework of Action on Education. We fail. So why we are failing? Even if you come out with a very, very strong document and keep it in papers and books and in files, nothing would happen. The more important is to create honesty, political will and determination. Hope.
So maybe civil society and companies could speed up the
civil society and companies. The thing is that, as I said, that there are not too many companies who are genuinely caring for children or really more clear on the issue of child labor. Not too many companies, as I said before. And that is a pity. Also, the civil society organizations have their own limitations. Many of them are very good, very innovative. These things are there. But the difficulty with them is that they have their own limitations, financial limitations and other kind of resource limitations, human resource limitations. So that is difficult for them. And also, they need more strategic direction, strategic thinking, more clarity on what they wanted to do. And they have to make a major shift from service delivery only to critical policy partner, to critical social watchdog, to critical mass mobilizer. These roles have to be taken over by civil society.
Otra de las preguntas que queríamos hacer es ¿cuáles son los temas de los cuales no se está hablando? ¿No? Y que bueno, en una conferencia, una cumbre, es cierto que hay temas que son políticamente correctos, pero ¿cuáles son aquellos temas de los cuales no se está hablando y es necesario hablar?
Do you believe that global conference miss some subjects? So there are some subjects which are non-political correctly. So do you believe we miss someone of them?
Actually, discussion has been there on most important subjects. But how to convert the discussion, the good ideas, in action? And that is the big question mark for me as an activist. I am not an academician who believe in reading, writing, reporting, analyzing, and creating more knowledge. Those who do it, I respect them. But for me, I am impatient and wanted to see that how fast this knowledge is translated into action. Without that, nothing is happening. And secondly, the action has to be taken on the ground. There should be a kind of link between the policies at the top and ground level action on the bottom. So both of these things should go hand in hand together. If you have small groups very genuinely working on the ground and the policies are bad, then very difficult. If you have very good policies on paper, does not come down, it's also equally bad. So we have to see that how does it go. As far as the issues are here, we are concerned about the most hidden forms of child labor. The people should take bigger commitment to eradicate agriculture child labor in agriculture sector. More work has to be done to eradicate child domestic labor, which is increasing. More efforts have to be made to eradicate children working in mining everywhere in the world. This is very, very dangerous for them. So these issues are talked about, but we have to have more concrete commitment and action.
What's the limit between trafficking and worst form on child labor? In your opinion, what is the limit between worst form of child labor and trafficking?
Trafficking is also worst forms of child labor under the definition of Convention 182. So if 177 countries have already committed to eradicate the worst forms of child labor by ratifying ILO Convention 182 on worst forms, then that commitment is also to eradicate child slavery, child bonded labor, children working in hazardous occupations, children engaged in armed conflict and insurgencies, children are used as child soldiers, children are used for petty crimes, and equally important is the children who are trafficked. So child trafficking is the worst forms of child labor, and for me, every single worst form of child labor is a crime. And the crime
That's why I'm asking.
And the crime has to be dealt into the criminal justice system. Criminal justice system. You cannot tackle crimes only through the development approach. Development approach is needed as a preventive measure to prevent that crime. Development approach is needed for rehabilitation of survivors, reintegration of survivors. This is a development approach where education, income generation, many things come in. But when a crime is being committed, there is a criminal behind it, or there is a group of criminal or organized gangs of criminal, particularly in case of trafficking. And that is unacceptable in any situation. And criminals have to be booked, whosoever they are. Same thing is with bonded labor, same thing is with children working in hazardous occupations, not paid or underpaid. All these are crimes and they have to be dealt as crimes. And I would say that this is a violence against children. Trafficking, slavery, bonded labor, hazardous occupation, these are violence against children. And how can you tolerate violence in any civilized world? So, violences have to be treated immediately.
¿Cuál es el rol que cree pueden tener los activistas sociales?
What's the role social activists should take?
Social activists should have many roles to do, not just one. The first of all, they should be convinced in themselves, first of all, that all forms of child labor are bad, not good for the health of society or economy. They should be convinced in themselves very deeply. And if they are not convinced, they are just working as professionals against child labor, then it won't work. You should have a very personal conviction that this is bad and we have to do something. The second thing is that if they really feel that is bad, then they have to speak to begin with. They have to speak wherever they can. Sometimes we go to a restaurant and a child is working. Sometimes we go to a relative's or friend's home and a domestic child help is working, cleaning things or cooking tea and so on, coffee in your situation, and we simply ignore. And we are activists. Then this is hypocrisy. This is hypocrisy. We have to have courage to say that no, I can't accept a glass of water in your place where you are having child labor. Then an activist has to acquire more knowledge.
Yes.
Without knowledge, you cannot be the activist. More passion is important. Passion is important, emotion is important, but equally important is arguments, strong, rational arguments to counter others. And then you have to be very strategic that how to and where to act. You cannot waste your energy in acting in a place where nothing is going to happen. So you have to be strategic that how, because activist has, or group of activists have limited resources, limited time, limited power, limited money, and then you have to invest your resources in such a way that you can get the maximum impact. So how to get the maximum impact is the strategy. Then activists should also use the media, mainstream media, normal media, but also the social media. Social media is very easy to use now, so one has to be very fast in using social media and blog and websites and the internet and all these things, and multiply the message. No activist should think that he can change or she can change the world on her own. You have to build a momentum, you have to build a kind of mobilize the people so that you can not just multiply the message, but you are able to add up the people of like-minded, and they have to work together. So sense of togetherness is equally important. Sharing and collective leadership is equally important. If you pose yourself as the leader who knows everything, then the people will leave you one day. So it's important that your colleagues, your friends, your supporters must also be empowered, and they should feel leadership in them. So how to transfer and inculcate the leadership in your colleagues is also important. The employee government.
How can civil society have a big impact if he don't have a formal recognition as a stakeholder?
I think civil society should think beyond that.
With the help of God.
No. But we should, actually, it is very important also that for the civil society, we have to think out of the box. ILO is a box. United Nations is a box. Governments are boxes. Sometimes our own NGOs are box. And it is important that we should think beyond those boxes, out of those boxes. Because the solution within the boxes are very difficult. Because these systems are conservative systems. These are very old systems, let me tell you.
We will erase that part.
So we have to create some new innovative systems, actually. We have to look beyond that how the decisions are made and how the decisions are followed and how the decisions are questioned in a more democratic manner, then less bureaucracy. And for me, UN systems are too bureaucratic.